Something incredible is hidden in plain sight in the book of Revelation, something that most people completely miss, and it involves the 144,000. But they're not just symbolic. They have a secret priestly role in what could be called the end time Exodus. And if you don't understand this, you're missing a key piece of God's plan. But what exactly is their role in this Exodus, and why does it matter for you today? We'll get to that, but first, let's go back to the original Exodus. Israel was trapped in slavery in Egypt, and Pharaoh's armies were very powerful. Life for them seemed hopeless, but God had a plan. He raised up Moses, sent the plagues, and then guided his people out through the Red Sea. But here's what many people miss. God didn't just rescue Israel. He used priests and the Levites to shape his people along the way. They weren't just performing rituals. They were guarding holiness and mediating God's presence and preparing Israel to enter the promised land. The Levites carried the Ark of the Covenant, set apart holy objects, and taught Israel how to approach God. Without their guidance, the people could have easily gone astray in the wilderness. Let's notice something. The Exodus wasn't just about leaving Egypt. It was about transformation. Every plague and every trial that they went through, every moment in the wilderness was shaping Israel into God's covenant people. It was teaching them to be obedient, holy, and prepared for the land that God promised. And this pattern doesn't just stop in the book of Exodus. It actually repeats all throughout the scripture, through the prophets, through Jesus' ministry, and ultimately, it reaches its climax in the book of Revelation. But before we get there, we need to understand how God's pattern repeats itself and why it points directly to the 144,000. One scholar explains that the Exodus theme is a pattern that God repeats over and over. God rescues his people, God guides them through trials, and then God brings them into rest. The book of Isaiah actually speaks of a new Exodus. I'm about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? The prophets describe a return from exile as a kind of Exodus, a deliverance from oppression. And Jesus fulfills the ultimate Passover. He frees people from the slavery of sin, becoming the Lamb whose blood both protects and saves. And the church itself journeys through a spiritual wilderness, learning dependence on God and growing in faith. Think about it. The Exodus is a blueprint. It shows God's methods: rescue, formation, and then restoration. And Revelation magnifies this blueprint on a cosmic scale. And this is where the 144,000 come in. They're God's end-time priests, the ones who embody this pattern perfectly. Not just numbers, not just symbols. They're active participants in God's cosmic plan. But here's where it gets shocking. Their mission reveals something most Christians completely miss about God's end-time strategy. And that's what we're about to uncover right now. In Revelation, in chapter 7 and chapters 14, we meet the 144,000. They're sealed servants of God from all tribes of Israel. Many people think that this is a literal number, but scripture shows us something incredible. These are priests for the end times, and they're described as blameless, following the Lamb wherever he goes. They're set apart and holy, and they carry God's presence in a world that's under judgment. Think of the priests in the first Exodus. They guided Israel, they protected God's holiness, and they mediated between God and the people. Now imagine this on a cosmic scale, and that's exactly what the 144,000 are and do. Every detail of their description actually has a purpose. They're witnesses of God's glory, and they're conduits of his salvation. They're active participants in the end-time Exodus. Now here's a question most people never ask. If these are priests of the end times, could God be calling us to participate in a spiritual Exodus today? And if so, what does it look like? We'll talk about this soon. Just like the Levites and priests, the 144,000 have three primary responsibilities. The first is guarding God's holiness. Revelation 14:4 says they're blameless before God. They actively maintain holiness in a world full of compromise, and they protect the integrity of God's plan and reflect his character. Second, they guide God's people. Just as the priests led Israel, these priests lead believers through the spiritual wilderness of tribulation. They provide direction, guidance, and courage in a time of deception and danger. Imagine navigating the wilderness without a guide. That's the role they play, but on a cosmic scale. And third, they're to be interceding before God. The Levites and priests mediated between God and Israel, and the 144,000 are to intercede for God's people. This intercession has spiritual power, influencing the battle between good and evil. Now here's a point that's easy to miss. Understanding the 144,000 gives us a blueprint for how we can live our own spiritual lives today. Holiness, guidance, intercession, these are roles and things that all believers are to do. And here's the next question. How does the Lamb empower them to fulfill this mission? That's what we're going to uncover next. Exodus had the Passover lamb. Israel was spared because of the blood of the lamb on their doorpost. And Revelation presents the lamb who was slain. The 144,000 are sealed and protected because of this lamb's blood. Just as the Levites mediated God's presence, the 144,000 carry God's presence into a dark and fallen world. They testify, they lead, and they intercede. They're all empowered by the Lamb, Jesus. Revelation emphasizes that they are redeemed from among men. This shows that they are chosen not just by lineage, but by God's redemptive power. Their authority, their holiness, and their mission all come directly from the Lamb. And their mission is more than just protection. It's about actively spreading the presence of God, even amid chaos. Israel wandered through the wilderness for 40 years, facing trials that shaped them into God's covenant people. Revelation shows us that the 144,000 face spiritual trials during the tribulation, a wilderness of persecution, false prophets, and global chaos. Through this, though, they are refined like gold in the fire. Their priestly role is not just about survival, but it's about preparation and then being formed to carry God's presence fully into his eternal kingdom. This pattern is repeated for all God's people. The trials we face are not random. They're shaping us and refining us and preparing us for our own participation in God's purposes. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we responding as God intends, or are we wandering aimlessly in our own wilderness? So the next time you read Revelation, remember, it's not just prophecy or mystery. It's a cosmic exodus. And God is raising up his priests, his 144,000, to guide, protect, and intercede. Are you part of the spiritual exodus? Are you walking in God's presence as he prepares his people for the ultimate promised land, the New Jerusalem? If this revelation spoke to you, watch this video next for more prophetic insights, and I'll see you there.